I'm hearing a lot of concern. I'm seeing that a lot of you guys are really, really worried about the trajectory of this Philadelphia Eagles team, specifically the Eagles defense. I'm seeing a lot of you guys are beginning to lose faith in Howie Roseman. I don't really understand why, but I'm seeing a lot of you guys are beginning to lose faith in your two-time Super Bowl champion general manager, somebody who's been able to cultivate and develop and create 3 Super Bowl worthy rosters and managed to secure 2 Super Bowls with those 3 rosters. 2 Super Bowl championships, 2 Super Bowl trophies, 2 Lombardi trophies secured over the past 7 years. 3 Super Bowl appearances over the past 7 years. I'm hearing and I'm seeing that a lot of you guys are concerned about Howie Roseman and concerned about the trajectory the Philadelphia Eagles are heading in. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm hearing. But I'm glad because it allows us to really have a tough conversation. It allows us to have a forthcoming, a vulnerable conversation. Some of you guys have the utmost confidence in Howie, as you should, as you should. But there are others who have lost or whose confidence is waning. And those are the people I'm really talking to. Those are the people I'm really talking to. Because I get the sense, that some of you are new to the party. I get the sense that some of you are new to this, but aren't really true to this. I think it's really important. That whatever sport that you're into, if it's basketball, football, soccer, baseball, whatever league you're into, the MLB, the NHL, the NBA, the NFL, the MLS, the Premier League, right? La Liga, Bundesliga. Yes, whatever league you're into, I think it's important to understand the business practices of said league. I also think it's important to understand the difficulties in roster sustainability and the difficulties in roster building and construction. I also think it's important to understand how the financials work in those leagues. So let's get to some facts, because some of you believe that I'm not speaking with facts or logic. Some of you guys are under the impression that when you win Super Bowls, you have a responsibility to pay everybody. Some of you guys, and if it doesn't apply to you, it doesn't apply to you. A hit dog will holler, though. A hit dog will holler. But some of you, not all, not most, but some of you are under this impression that when you win a Super Bowl, you have a responsibility to pay everybody. Everybody. Some of you are under the impression, not all, but some of you are under the impression that when you win the Super Bowl, you're able to keep everybody, as if other teams don't want your players. When you win Super Bowls, other organizations want your players. When you win Super Bowls, other organizations want your coaches. When you're successful, other organizations want your GM. Because they believe there is a secret sauce that they can tap into. They believe that whatever that player did for you to win that Super Bowl, they can bring that experience, they can bring that energy, they can bring that mana over to their organization. But I must remind a lot of you guys I must remind a lot of you guys, winning Super Bowls don't happen in the micro. They happen in the macro. In order to win Super Bowls, you must always think big picture and be timely with your small picture view. In order to sustain success, you must always think big picture. So let's get into it, right? We spoke about the players the Eagles have lost. They lost or they moved on from CJ/GJ. They decided not to re-sign Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Isaiah Rodgers, Kenny Gainwell, right? Kenny Gainwell's going to the Steelers on a one-year deal. Shout out to him. Congratulations to him. Who else? I said Sweat, Milton, Slay, CJ/GJ, Kenny Gainwell. Who else? I want to make sure I don't miss out on anybody. Isaiah Rodgers. We don't know if we're going to bring back Mekhi Becton. We don't know yet. We don't know yet. Mekhi Becton is still up in the air. We don't know yet. But the bottom line is when you win, and you win big, and your players play well, especially in that big game, teams want those players. And I know some of you guys are also wondering, well, why didn't we extend these guys mid-season? Why didn't we get these deals done early? Howie normally pays guys early. Why didn't we pay these guys early? Well, let's not forget, Josh Sweat did get extended with the Philadelphia Eagles at one point. He got a contract in 2018. He got extended. And then they gave him a one-year fully guaranteed deal for the 2024 season. And he parlayed that. He bet on himself, actually. He bet on himself in Philadelphia, something Hassan Reddick didn't want to do. He didn't want to bet on himself in Philadelphia. He wanted to take his talents elsewhere. But Josh Sweat bet on himself in Philadelphia. He parlayed a one-year, $10 million deal to what are we talking about here? He parlayed a one-year, $10 million deal into a four-year, $76.4 million deal with $41 million fully guaranteed. So Josh Sweat, although we were unable to keep him, we did draft him in 2018. He became a free agent in 2025. We had him for 7 years. Managed to leverage that into a Super Bowl win, 2 Super Bowl berths since he's been here. Milton Williams. You drafted him in, what year was that? You drafted Milton Williams in 2021. He was drafted in the 3rd round. Rookie deal lasts 4 years. Managed to managed to get the 2 Super Bowls in that 4-year span. You win one of them. Sounds like a successful draft pick to me. He leveraged that 3rd round draft status into a 4-year, $104 million deal with $63 million guaranteed. You see, when you draft well, continuously, at some point, you got to make tough decisions about who you want to keep and who you don't want to keep. And you don't want to hold those players back. And you also can't hold a player hostage and assume they're going to take a team-friendly deal. Those guys grind. They deserve the contracts they got. We couldn't pay them that money. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Trust me, the Huff contract is not the only thing that's killing us. The Huff contract, obviously, is something that you probably regret. But trust me, the Huff contract is just the tip of the iceberg. The Huff contract is not the only thing that's holding the Eagles down right now. We're not going to try to minimize what this situation is into one singular contract. It's not like they signed Bryce Huff to a $100 million deal. They guaranteed him $34 million, a $51 million deal. Everyone goes through a situation where you sign a player, he doesn't live up to the contract. It happens. It's the NFL. No one's immune from it. The Bryce Huff contract is just the tip of the iceberg. But again, I want to tell you why. I want to tell you why we can't or couldn't bring back those players. And by the way, for Sweat, Antonio, my man, when it comes to Josh Sweat, he signed for $20 million a year, $21 million a year. We signed Huff to $17 million a year. So, I mean, Sweat wasn't going to settle for 17. He wasn't going to settle for 17. But nonetheless, let's keep it going, right? I'm going to explain to you why the Philadelphia Eagles were unable to keep the players you guys are crying about. Not all of you, but some of you. Because again, I'm seeing some of you guys losing faith in Howie. Not all, but some. And I'm emphasizing that because some people get sensitive. They think I'm talking about them. I'm saying some for a reason. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. But a hit dog will holler. The Philadelphia Eagles, they understand that they have a bunch of young players on rookie deals that they have to be prepared to offer contract extensions to in the near future, if they so desire. If they so desire. There are many young players that the Philadelphia Eagles have hit on in the last 3 draft classes that they have to be prepared to pay. See, this is the price you pay when you draft well. When you draft well, you got to make tough decisions. And you have to weigh cost and benefit. You have to weigh cost and production. You have to weigh age, production, cost. Can I get the same output or close to the same output from this young player as I can from this older player who's due to get paid? Can I get the same production from this guy on a rookie deal as I could have got from a guy who's looking to get paid? I have some examples. But before we do that, as we go through the list of players who the Philadelphia Eagles have to start thinking about, we're going to break down why it's relevant to the contracts or the players we lost. But before we do so, I want to remind you guys, the Eagles did re-sign Zack Baun to a 3-year, $51 million contract, $34 million fully guaranteed. They did bring back the most important player that we all talked about. A lot of us said, hey, bring back Zack Baun, and I will be okay with whatever he does. A lot of you guys said that. A lot of you. Bring back Zack Baun, and I can live with whatever he does after that. I trust him. And once the chips started falling, the mice came out the woodworks. They came out. They got nervous. They couldn't hold their water. So we're going to get into the details. Let's just start with the 2022 draft class, because a lot of the guys from the 2021 draft class have gotten paid already. Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson. They had to move on from Milton, had to move on from Kenny Gainwell. You can't sign everybody. So you have to make executive decisions. The Philadelphia Eagles felt like Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson were more valuable than Milton Williams and Kenny Gainwell. Would you guys agree or disagree? That's the 2021 draft class. Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, Milton Williams, Kenny Gainwell. Those are the 4 players that are on this roster or were on this roster that was in the 2021 draft class. The Eagles re-signed 2 of them. They let 2 of them walk. Would you say Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson are more valuable than Milton Williams and Kenny Gainwell? I'm asking you guys directly. Yes or no? Yes or no? Is Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson more valuable than Milton Williams and Kenny Gainwell? Pat Ryan says absolutely. This is the 2021 draft class we're talking about. The Philadelphia Eagles understood that. Muhammad Imran says yes. Joel Y. Perez Martinez says, I agree. Stacy Crawford says definitely. Ray Lester AC said clearly, of course. Hell yes by Jinx Wolf. Yes. So they re-signed Devontae. They re-signed Landon. Unfortunately, Milton, because he was drafted in the 3rd round, he didn't have a 5th-year option. So they had to let him walk. Kenny Gainwell, obviously they let him walk. Let's get to the 2022 draft class. The 2022 draft class. The Eagles drafted Jordan Davis. And again, we're talking about key guys who are still on his roster, right? That they got to make decisions on. Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean, Grant Calcaterra. All 4 of those players are entering year 4 of their rookie contracts. The only player that has a 5th-year option is Jordan Davis because he's a 1st-round pick. Now, if I have the Philadelphia Eagles pegged correctly, Cam Jurgens is going to be the first one to get his extension from that draft class. Cam Jurgens. So that's a young core player at a high-value position that the Philadelphia Eagles have to figure out the future for. The Philadelphia Eagles are not going to let Cam Jurgens walk. He will get paid. He will get extended. Jordan Davis, he has the 5th-year option. Because Cam Jurgens is more valuable than Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens will get priority over Jordan Davis's contract. But Jordan Davis has flexibility because of the 5th-year option. I believe the Philadelphia Eagles will extend Cam Jurgens first. They will then pick up Jordan Davis's 5th-year option. Nakobe Dean and Grant Calcaterra are the wild cards. Those are the what ifs. If Nakobe Dean gets healthy, if the Philadelphia Eagles look at Grant Calcaterra as somebody that they like long-term, I look at Grant Calcaterra as somebody who's replaceable, expendable. I look at Nakobe Dean as a guy who showed a lot of great tape over the course of this 17-game season, even the first half of the playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. But what's played Nakobe Dean over his career is health. Health. And now he's going to be starting the 2025 season on the PUP list. Now, I believe the Philadelphia Eagles will likely find a way to extend Nakobe Dean on a very, very team-friendly deal because they have all the leverage. He has none. He's only giving you 1 year of production, and he's giving you legit 2 years of being hurt. Granted, the second injury happened in the playoffs, but he's also going to be missing likely the first 4 or 5 games of the 2025 season. So you're likely only going to have maybe 12 games to see Nakobe Dean prove he's still that guy. But this is where things get interesting. You got Jeremiah Trotter waiting to get his opportunity. But we're going to get to Jeremiah Trotter Jr. because Jeremiah Trotter Jr. will put pressure on Nakobe Dean. He will put pressure. But I digress. So from that 2022 draft class, I expect the Philadelphia Eagles to extend 2 of them guaranteed. That's Cam Jurgens and Jordan Davis. But they don't have to rush for Jordan Davis because he has a 5th-year option. They got time for that one. But I expect Cam Jurgens and Jordan Davis to be the for sure extensions. Let's move on to the 2023 draft class. This is the one right here. This is the one. This is the one. You have Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Tyler Steen, Sidney Brown, Keely Ringo, Tanner McKee, Moro Ojomo. Now, this one is interesting. Obviously, Tanner McKee's contract is not a priority. He's a quarterback too. He's a backup. That's not a priority. Keely Ringo and Sidney Brown, they're interesting because you moved on from CJGJ. You allowed Darius Slay and Isaiah Rodgers to walk. So now it's imperative to find out what Sidney Brown and what Keely Ringo can do for you as legitimate starters. I'm not saying they're guaranteed to be starters in 2025. But at some point, you have to find out what your young guys, what your 2022 or 2023, what your 2023 draft class can do. In particular, Sidney Brown and Keely Ringo, if they get the opportunity, if they can win the job. Because again, you want to try to maintain your core and get production from young players on rookie deals. That's how you sustain success. That's how you're able to pay your stars, your veterans. The Eagles have made it clear. We're spending a lot of money on offense. We're going to try really hard to hit on the draft and defense and supplement it with maybe a veteran here and there that we may sign in free agency. Maybe supplement it with a diamond in the rough in free agency, sign a guy to a 1 year or 2 year deal, whatever it may be. The Eagles have made their vision very clear. Invest heavily on offense. Try to hit in the draft on defense and get the most out of your young guys. That's why Josh Sweat walked. That's why Milton Williams walked. That's why Darius Slay walked. That's why Isaiah Rodgers walked. And now that we're learning more, it's potentially another reason why CJ was traded. I'm hearing rumors that he asked for more money. I'm also hearing rumors that there was some discontention between both parties. So you put all that in a pot, CJ is shipped to Houston. So if you're Howie Roseman, you're thinking to yourself, you got to find out what these young guys can do. Because if you want to pay guys like Jalen Carter, if you want to pay guys like Nolan Smith, if you want to pay guys like Cam Jurgens or Jordan Davis, you gotta let Sidney Brown get an opportunity. Cheap contract, see how much production you can get out of it. Kelee Ringo, cheap contract. You got to see how much production you can get out of that. These guys are entering year 3. You got to find out if they can play. Tyler Steen, same thing goes for him. Moro Ojoma, same thing goes for him. You got to find out if those guys can play. Well, we know Tyler Steen can play. We know Moro Ojoma can play. Tyler Steen has been a rotational guard on many occasions. We know Tyler Steen can play. Moro Ojoma, this was the first year he got legit snaps. We know he can play. Moro Ojoma was drafted to be the Milton Williams replacement. The Eagles saw the writing on the wall. The Eagles knew, in my humble opinion, I think the Philadelphia Eagles knew for a long time, or at least for the past 365 days, maybe the past year and a half. I think they knew they weren't going to. The moment they drafted Moro Ojoma, they knew they weren't going to re-sign Milton Williams. They knew that. But obviously that hinged on Moro Ojoma being a good player. Moro Ojoma was developed and he's shown that he can be a good player. As a matter of fact, I believe PFF had him at a higher pressure rate than Milton Williams. NFL Next Gen Stats says something different, but I believe PFF had Moro Ojoma. He had a higher pressure rate than Milton Williams this past season. So Moro Ojoma was a hit, but he's entering year 3. So he has to get more reps. And you can't pay Milton Williams because you know damn well you're going to have to pay Jalen Carter. And that's going to be a big one. That's going to be the biggest contract the Eagles signed from these past 3 draft classes. There's not a single player. There's not a single player on defense that's going to make more than Jalen Carter. Not a single player. So the Eagles need to make sure they clear the runway. They can't sign Josh Sweat. They can't sign Milton Williams. They can't bring back Slay. They can't bring back Isaiah Rodgers. They can't give CJ more money. They got to clear the runway because that Jalen Carter Brinks truck is coming. Jalen Carter is going to get more than $30 million a season. They can't play around. They can't tie themselves up with a 4-year. Let's go over again what Josh Sweat and Milton Williams got. They can't give Josh Sweat 4 years, $76.4 million, $41 million guaranteed. They can't give Milton Williams 4 years, $104 million, $63 million guaranteed. They can't give them that because you got Jalen Carter who needs to get paid. You got Cam Jurgens who needs to get paid. Jordan Davis, he has a 5th-year option, so there's flexibility with that. But I don't think Jordan Davis is going to get Milton Williams money. I don't even think Jordan Davis is going to get $20 million. But they look at him as somebody who's instrumental on that defensive line because of how he takes up space for everybody, the run defense aspect of it, the athleticism. They still believe that he has potential to take his pass rushing ability to another level. His pass rushing ability did take a step forward this season. They believe with that athleticism, that size, him and Jalen Carter can be demons. But Jalen Carter is the one that they got to clear the runway for. They can't play around. They can't play around. So then we get to the 2024 draft class. These young brothers are entering year 2. Year 2. The Eagles don't necessarily have to worry about it quite yet, but they do have to worry about it because any good GM is not only thinking about the now, he's also thinking 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line. And when you do the math on that, you're going to have to pay Quinyon Mitchell top tier money at the position. You're going to have to pay Cooper DeJean top tier money at the position. And you're going to have to figure out what Jalen Hunt is over the long term. We've seen Jalen Hunt put up some really good tape this season, especially after BG got hurt. Jalen Hunt has a lot of potential to be a really good pass rusher. Jalen Hunt has potential to be your Josh Sweat replacement. You see, Moro Ojomo is the Milton Williams replacement. Josh Sweat or Jalen Hunt can be the Josh Sweat replacement. Granted, you still need to restore your depth on the edge in particular and in the DB room, safety and corner included. But look at it like this. You lose Slay, you draft Quinyon Mitchell. You got your number 1 corner on a rookie deal who's proven he could play in this league and lock up anybody. You find Cooper DeJean in the draft. Now, will they keep him on the inside? Will they move him to the outside? I don't know. I know my preference. My preference is keep him in the slot. But don't put it past the Philadelphia Eagles to draft another corner. Maybe they hit on him. Maybe they don't. You never know. But you got to clear the runway for those key guys on defense. Again, Jalen Carter, you got to clear the runway for that. Nolan Smith, you got to clear the runway for that. Cam Jurgens, you got to clear the runway for that. I think those going to be like the biggest. Quinyon Mitchell, you got to clear the runway for that. Carter, Nolan Smith, Quinyon, Cooper DeJean, Cam Jurgens. But Cam was on offense, but staying on defensive side. That's 4 guys. Your core. Jalen Hunt. What's his ceiling? We're still finding that out. Will Shipley, he's a running back. We'll figure that you don't have to worry about Will Shipley. Anaya Smith, you don't got to worry about him. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., interesting. Trevor Keegan, interesting. Johnny Wilson, you can waste time with that. You ain't got to worry about that. But the names who are interesting: Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Trevor Keegan, Jalen Hunt, Keely Ringo, Sidney Brown, Tyler Steen, Nakobe Dean. Those are the interesting names because I believe Nakobe Dean. Oh, I can't forget Reed Blankenship. Reed Blankenship was an undrafted guy in the 2022 season. Thank you guys for reminding me. Reed Blankenship, who's entering the last year of his deal with the Eagles. He was an undrafted free agent in 2022. He's a part of that class of young guys. What's the Eagles' long-term plan with Reed? Reed has been a guy who's been able to force turnovers. He's been able to force at minimum 3 to 4 turnovers since he's been a starter. He's instrumental on the defense side of that ball. So there are names who are interesting. Nakobe Dean and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., their futures are tied to the hip. Tyler Steen and Trevor Keegan, I believe their futures are tied at the hip. Sidney Brown, Kelee Ringo. Can Sidney Brown prove to be starting quality? Can Kelee Ringo take that next step and be starter quality corner? This is why the Philadelphia Eagles can't afford to get emotionally attached to guys like Josh Sweat, to guys like Milton Williams, to guys like Darius Slay or Isaiah Rodgers. Yeah, they were contributors to a Super Bowl winning team. But you guys know how the league always likes to pay attention to winning with your quarterback on his rookie deal. You know how the league, how these national guys, they talk about how teams want to try to win and win big with their quarterback on a rookie deal before they got to start paying guys, right? They talk about that. That doesn't just go for the quarterback. You see, people don't talk about it much because it's not sexy. It's not enticing. But the same way how you want to win with your quarterback on his rookie deal, you want to win with all your guys on their rookie deals. Whoever you drafted that year, whoever you deem is valuable, whoever proves to be a contributor, you want to try to maximize that rookie window before they got to get paid. So if you ask me, did the Philadelphia Eagles maximize the 4-year window they had with Milton Williams? I say yes. Did the Philadelphia Eagles maximize the 4-year window they had with Kenny Gainwell? Yes. Did the Philadelphia Eagles maximize the 7-year window they had with Josh Sweat? I say yes. Did the Eagles maximize the 2 years they had with CJ/GJ? I say yes. Did the Philadelphia Eagles maximize the 5 years they had with Darius Slay? I would say yes. Did the Eagles maximize the 1 year they had with Isaiah Rodgers? I say yes. So far, have the Eagles maximized the years they've had with Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean, Grant Calcaterra, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Tyler Steen, Sidney Brown, Kelee Ringo, Tanner McKee, Moro Ojomo, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jags Hunt, Will Shipley, Anaya Smith, Jeremiah Charter Jr., Trevor Keegan, Johnny Wilson? Did the Philadelphia Eagles maximize the rookie contracts of those 19 young players I mentioned? I say yes. So all I'm trying to get across to you guys is when you draft well, and you develop well, and you win consistently, and you win a Super Bowl, it's going to be hard to keep everybody. It's going to be impossible to pay everybody. Teams are going to want your players on their rosters. It's par for the course. If you're Howie Roseman, you can't make the same mistake you made in 2018 when you got emotionally attached. When you got emotionally attached to Nigel Bradham. You can't get emotionally attached to these guys. You have to always think 1, 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. You have to ask yourself, who's irreplaceable? Who's invaluable?